Hey everyone, Chris Bayless here, founder of the Sponsorship Collective. And I want to say a big thank you for joining me today for this training called Sponsors on Demand. We're going to talk all about how to install the 3 systems you need in order to get leads every single day, meetings every single week, and sponsors every month. We have a lot to cover, so I'm going to talk really fast. So please listen really fast, but also know you can return to this page and watch this training anytime you want. We'll send you the recording, and there's a workbook for you to download to follow along, make notes, and participate as I go. I mentioned the Sponsorship Collective. We help festivals, major events, motorsport teams, and nonprofits build irresistible sponsorship programs. And we do that with the systems I'm going to be showing you today. So before we really dive in, though, please download the workbook. There will be a link on this page for you to do so. It looks just like this. So you can see room for you to take notes, all of the slides from today. We're going to be exploring this shortly. And all of the templates that I'm going to be talking about are all available in this workbook for you to download. So make sure you do that now before we dive in. Now, often at this stage in one of these training sessions, most people are thinking, what's the catch? What does this guy have to sell me? Well, the good news is I have nothing to sell you on this training. The training is meant to be useful. It's meant to work. It's meant to be systems that you can implement right away and install into your business to grow sponsorship revenue. But if at any time during this training you would like to book a strategy session with my team to find out whether or not we can help you, what's missing from your sponsorship program, and how we work with clients, you can click the link or pick a time from the calendar right on this page, book your strategy session, and then you and the team can dig in and really figure out what's holding back your sponsorship program. But aside from an invitation to book a strategy session, should you choose, that's it. We're just going to dive in and start unpacking what you should be doing to grow your sponsorship program. So let's take a look at what we're going to focus on today. As you can see here, the way we work with our clients is through the Sponsorship Accelerator, where we go in deep on all aspects of sponsorship, including defining your offer, knowing your audience, how to create activations. Then we work with our clients to value their opportunities using our valuation calculator, build out their sales material. Then we move on to identifying prospects, building connections, and launching partnerships, all with the goal of 3 to 5 cash sponsorship within 90 days. Why does this matter? Well, for the purpose of our conversation, I think it's really important that we put what we're going to study together today into context so that you know all of the moving parts. But for the purpose of this training, we're going to talk about how to identify prospects and how to get them to respond to our outreach efforts. And part of that actually comes from audience, which we're going to talk about. And I'll color in half. We're going to talk a little bit about sales material, but we're not going to go in really deep into those topics. So when we're talking about getting leads every day, meetings every week, and sponsors every month, these are the systems that we really need to focus on. So let's dive in. First warning, these systems work. What I'm going to show you will work. I remember once I was about to take the stage and present to several hundred people at a conference, and someone stopped me before going on stage, like 10 minutes before. And she said to me, I have a bone to pick with you. And I said, well, couldn't wait. Like, I'm kind of in the middle of something. I'm in the zone. I'm ready to go up and speak. I'm pacing backstage, trying to build up the nerve to go and speak in front of a bunch of my colleagues and peers. And she said, no, it can't wait. You shared with me these things, these systems, these templates. But what you didn't tell me is that they work. And I had a sponsor actually agree to a call, and I didn't know what to do next. This is a real story. I mean, of course, what you should do next is sell them sponsorship. But I guess there's such low quality material out there that this individual simply didn't expect our systems to work. And when it did work, it actually caused her a great deal of stress. So if you are afraid of success, if you are uncomfortable with success, if you really don't want to bring in sponsorship, just turn off this training now. But if you do want to challenge yourself to bring in sponsors, to get leads every day, meetings every week, and sponsors every month, then use these systems, but do so at your own peril because they work. So first of all, we need to start with leads every day. Yes, you need to be getting new leads every single day, regardless of your sponsorship goals. Why? Why do we want leads every single day? Because sponsorship, like all sales, is a numbers game. And if you don't have new leads coming in every single day, your pipeline will dry up. And then you're going to resort to the old school tactics that don't work of emailing strangers the sponsorship package that they never asked for. So instead, we want to keep our pipelines full to ward off scarcity mindset and the fear that we're going to run out of leads one day. Step one in getting leads every day is to know your audience. How can I say this? Well, remember, we're going to focus on how to identify prospects and how to build connections, but you want to be reaching out to prospects that actually have an interest in your audience. Otherwise, they're not going to respond. If they have an interest in your audience, they're highly likely to respond to your outreach efforts. But if you don't know who your audience is, you're never going to find the prospects that really want to connect with your audience and get in front of your audience. Sponsorship is not about putting logos on stuff. Sponsorship is about connecting sponsors to their target market in meaningful ways. From now on, think of yourself as a curator of audience, not a bowl of logo soup. How to make those cool experiences is beyond the scope of this training, but if you want to talk more about that, again, book a strategy session and we can dig into the super exciting and creative world of activations. So what does it mean to know your audience? Well, let me show you. It means that you have to have 25 plus data points on your audience. You want to have a clearly defined macro or high level audience, and you want to have a minimum of 3 avatars, 3 personas, 3 niches. In fact, it should look a little bit like this. You want to be able to talk about age, gender, whether or not they participated in your opportunity, your event, your build, whatever it is that you're seeking sponsorship for. You want to know how much money they make, how many kids they have, who they bank with, their preferred automotive brands, and you also want to know their telecommunications preferences. This is just a start. You want to go a lot deeper than this, but you must know at least this. Now, before you hit stop and say, this is a ridiculous amount of information, I could never gather this about my audience. First of all, I'm going to show you how to do it. And second of all, we're not done yet. Sponsors need a lot more information than what I've just shown you. Let me show you what else they need. You want to be able to tell your potential sponsors what your audience plans to do in the next 18 months. Remember, you want to be able to say this about your macro audience and about each of your 3 avatars. What percentage are planning a home renovation, will apply for a new credit card, will take a vacation, will travel, will rent a car, plan to travel within the US or Europe or wherever in the world, plan to change health insurance, plan to buy their first home or their next home or an investment property, plan to switch cell phone providers, plan to pursue continuing education. In other words, you want to be able to say, my property, which is just a fancy word for sponsorship opportunity, my opportunity is a conference, is a festival with 375 event professionals. 30% are VPs and C-suite, 50% are mid-level professionals, and 20% are consultants. Which of those audience segments appeals to you the most? If you can't speak this way to potential sponsors, you are not speaking the language of marketing. Sponsorship is a marketing discipline. If you're not speaking the language of marketing, then you're reaching out and asking marketers for an investment, for a donation, for a gift, or to give you hundreds of thousands of dollars in exchange for pennies worth of logo placement. Of course, that doesn't work, but you already knew that. So how do you get all of this glorious audience data? Well, check the workbook because we've actually given you the survey questions that will get exactly this information. In fact, it looks just like this. Information on how to use the survey, B2C questions, or if you have a B2B audience like a conference might or an association often does, you can just grab these, plug them into your survey tool, and there you have it. All of the great data you need in order to engage in prospect research. Prospect research without audience data is useless. It's a waste of your time. You're just reaching out to companies who have money because they have money and because you want money. Companies know this, they're not interested. But if you reach out to companies because you have their potential customers, then companies want to hear from you all day, every day. So once you've built your audience data, then you can start to look for potential sponsors. And those potential sponsors will come right out of the audience data. So here's how to think of prospecting. Instead of, well, company A has a ton of money, therefore I will send them my sponsorship proposal. Well, when you do that, you get no money. So let's think of things a bit differently going forward. You've done your audience research. Once you've done your audience research, you're going to see in your survey the brands that your audience is interested in. If your audience drives a particular type of car, that's who you want to be reaching out to first. These are your absolute hottest prospects, which is why audience data is so very important. The next step is to think about the types of magazines and websites and publications that your audience consumes. In other words, when you ask them about their hobbies, you want to then go find publications that line up with those hobbies. Once you find those, then you want to read them. You want to go on the website, consume the material, and look for the ads that show up in those publications. Why? Because that's proof that that particular brand, those particular companies are interested in your audience, and they're already spending money trying to get in front of that audience. But they're doing it through advertising, which is pretty much just logo placement. And sponsorship can do so much more than basic old school advertising can do. Next up are what we call endemic sponsors. What I mean by that are the sponsors whose brands and products line up with the type of property. If you have a ski event, you would go look for ski brands. Motorsport event, you would go look for brands that line up with those who are interested in automotive. If you have a 5K run or a marathon, you would go and look for brands that sell running gear. So this is what we mean when we say endemic brands. Most people start here and end here, but notice that these are not your warmest prospects. I mean, let's face it. If they're endemic brands already, they've proven that they don't need you to get more customers. You do have alignment, but they've found other ways to get into that niche and that avatar. Then the next thing you want to do is look for your competitors. And when I say competitors, I don't mean go find another ski event or run or motorsport event just like yours and download their sponsorship package and steal other sponsors. You're looking for competitors based on your audience. People are more than just one thing. So just because they came to your run or your event doesn't mean that there's nothing else in the world that they care about. You've asked these questions in your survey. So go find the other types of events and sponsorship properties that they would be involved in. In other words, those properties targeting your audience, and look at who else they're working with. This is very similar to the advertising model, but instead you're going to apply it to sponsorship. And then the next step is to explore other competitors in the verticals of every other category. When you do that, You should expect to have hundreds and hundreds. Some of our clients end up with over 1,000 prospects. That's how you get leads every single day. It starts with audience, and then that's what points you to your prospect research. Simply downloading a list of every company you can possibly think of from the internet and e-blasting them your sponsorship package is an outstanding way to make sure that you never sell any sponsorship. If you want to be successful, you have to start with audience. So then once you've pulled together this giant list of prospects, I want you to open up the worksheet and copy our really simple CRM moves management prospecting worksheet where you can actually just add the company name, the type of person you're reaching out to, the department. We're going to cover that in another part of this training, the prospect name, and then their email address or LinkedIn profile. You want to be able to quickly categorize and store all of this information. And we put a really easy tool in the worksheet for you to follow along with. And if you prefer, you can set it up in a really simple spreadsheet that looks like this, where you have each department, company name, prospect name, LinkedIn profile, or email. And then it's really simple every single day to come into here and then pick your 5, 10, 15 prospects and then use the email templates that I'm going to share with you in the next training. Now, remember, I warned you, these systems work. Our friend Shaquanda here had the privilege to be part of the 90-Day Accelerator program, was one of the best investments that she could have made as an entrepreneur, clear vision, but with little knowledge of the industry. We coached her and helped her connect the missing dots. She learned so much about audience, how to make my company more appealing. Since being part of the collective, Shaquanda has met with 4 major global corporations who are interested in working together. Because instead of focusing on which companies have money, because Shaquanda wants money, she focused instead on who is her audience and what companies want to connect with that audience. When she did that, everything changed. And guess what? You don't have to have an email list of 100 million people in order to make money from sponsorship. We had an eye-opener in going through the training with the sample pipeline slide where you calculate 2,500 people in the database to a sales opportunity in the millions. Mind's blown. Great stuff. One reason we haven't avidly pursued sponsorship is because we were thinking we needed the audience to be, quote, big enough. But actually having, she reveals the number, I won't say what, on his email list isn't seeming so small now. More is not better. Better is better. And that's why audience data is so critically important. I know that what I'm talking about may be very different from the way you've practiced sponsorship in the past. Our way works. Listen to Linda. Help me organize my project, set up a plan, and then set the plan in motion. It gave me a very different approach, which actually makes more business sense than the way I was approaching excellent training. You might be uncomfortable with the audience-focused approach to sponsorship, but believe me, when you make the switch, everything changes. So now that you have this giant list of people to reach out to, companies to reach out to, what do? You send them your sponsorship proposal, right? Please don't do that. You want to reach out and book a meeting. Every single week, you should be meeting with prospects. I know it sounds like what I'm saying is that sponsorship is a lot of hard work. That's because sponsorship is a lot of hard work. But when done right, it's incredibly lucrative. Why do you want meetings every single week? Because it takes sponsors time to make decisions. Not every meeting you're going to have will result in sponsorship dollars. So if 1 in 4 of these discovery meetings turns into a sale and you need 10 sponsors to hit your revenue goals, you need to have 40 meetings. I don't know about you, but I would way rather have 1 or 2 sales meetings per week than try to cram 40 meetings in a week before my deadline or my budget. The mistake most people make at this stage is they just start emailing sales material, sponsorship packages, 2,000 word emails to prospects, hoping that the prospect will read the email. They won't. And then find something incredible in the sponsorship package or in the email itself and then slide money across the table to the property. They won't. And even though you have likely done this for weeks, months, years, sent out thousands and thousands of unsolicited sponsorship packages and emails and heard nothing back, many people still hold the belief that if they just keep doing it, it will work. But it won't. Why doesn't it work? Because your sponsors don't want to receive unsolicited sponsorship packages. A friend of mine who heads up the sponsorship department for a Fortune 500 brand told me that she gets 10,000 unsolicited, unasked for sponsorship packages every single month. 10,000 unsolicited sponsorship packages. It doesn't matter what you write on page 62 of your sponsorship package or what you include in gold, silver, or bronze, which of course you shouldn't be using anyway. It doesn't matter what you put on your sponsorship packages. No one's reading it. Instead, you want to reach out in a respectful way. Share the fact that you have a shared audience and invite them to do discovery. So instead of the old school approach, I want you to do the following instead. First, I want you to stop thinking about companies as these large entities that you can just email and get money from. Companies are made up of departments, and each of these departments has access to sponsorship dollars. Now, I gave you a sneak peek. I hope you're not looking ahead because this information is in the workbook, and I gave you a sneak peek when I showed you our simple prospect worksheet. But I want you to think about all of the departments that have access to sponsorship dollars. We have sales. We have sponsorship, marketing, brand, communications, product, and we'll say HR or recruiting. These 7 departments are who you should be researching, connecting with, and reaching out to in order to get sponsorship dollars. So one company has 7 access points, and each of those access points has 2 or 3 people that you can and should be reaching out to. So that's 21, give or take, contacts within each company for you to have a discovery call with. So how do you get these people to actually respond? You use the 7x7 outreach method. Here's how it works. 3 emails plus 1 phone call plus 2 emails plus 1 phone call. 7 contacts, 7 outreaches for each department in each company. So on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, you send emails. Then on Thursday, you give a call. Friday, send an email. Monday, an email. Tuesday, you give them a call. And if they don't respond, what most people do is assume that that individual speaks for the whole company and that's it. They just move on and assume that company's not interested. But actually, what you're going to do is if sales doesn't respond, you move on to sponsorship, then marketing, then brand, then communications, then product, then recruiting. Each department, all 7, gets 7 outreaches times the 3 people you have found in each department. That is how we get meetings every week and why we need such a mountain of leads. Now, I know what you're thinking. I send emails to people, they just don't respond. That's because you're sending the wrong emails. Instead, use these emails. And when I say use these emails, I don't mean take these emails and add 2,000 more words about your sponsorship opportunity. I literally mean these are the emails that our clients copy and paste and send to prospects and get responses. The system works if you use it as it was intended. Now, I'm not going to go through these emails in great detail because It's in the workbook. So make sure you download the workbook and you can copy and paste these emails if you choose. So here we go. We have recommended subject, the body of the email, very short, simple emails. Here's the day 2 email. It's even in the swipe file or in the workbook, it even tells you when to send the email. Notice that none of these emails include sponsorship packages, gold, silver, bronze, amounts, money. Hey, here's a link to sign up. It's all about getting people to book a meeting. So if you're having trouble reading this, open up the workbook and follow along. 4th message, 5th message, and that's that. Do you remember when I warned you that our system works? Well, here's Amber. Hey, Chris, I just want to tell you how amazing my experience with you was. I reached out to 18 people on a Sunday with your email template and got 11 meetings booked. Now, you and I don't know each other, but I'm willing to bet that you have never sent out 18 emails and gotten 11 meetings as a result, let alone on a Sunday. What an eye-opener it is to simply change your mindset and truly focus on what matters to the prospect. One prospect who advised me that sponsorship has been cut back said that our phone call today was the most fun he had all week. He's now looking forward to receiving a custom sponsorship proposal, which won't have any tiers. And of course, I wouldn't hesitate to recommend your work to anyone else who has to solicit sponsorship. How about Shannon? The sponsorship accelerator was hands down the best investment I've ever made in my professional career. I gained so much knowledge about sponsorship and was able to put it into practice and leave the program with 8 sponsors in 90 days. Or our friend Dave Stewart. The Sponsorship Collective, hands down the most important program I've ever implemented for my business. Chris and his team set me for success through step-by-step program and information that just isn't available anywhere else. I have not only launched my program higher than ever this year, but now have a baseline for scaling things over time. You will not regret working with Chris and the Sponsorship Collective team. Why? Because the system works, but only if you follow it. So how do we get sponsors every single month? And why do we want sponsors every single month? I hope that the answers to these questions are self-evident, but we want sponsors every single month for cash flow. We want to know exactly where we stand long before event day, race day, festival day, or if you're selling naming rights for your building, you want to have cash in the bank long before you need it. Focusing on sponsorship at the last minute is not in your favor. It's stressful and it just simply doesn't lead to high revenue. The thing that we are trying to avoid in sponsorship, indeed in all sales, is this thing called social dismissal. Social dismissal is when you show up to a sponsor meeting or you just send sales material to a potential sponsor, and it's obvious that you are not one of them. You are asking for an investment. You're asking for a donation. You're talking about logos on everything as though awareness has any value in the marketplace. You're not using the language of sponsors. You don't know who your audience is. When you show up proposal first, trying to sell, you are deemed an amateur. And sponsors don't want to work with amateurs. They want to work with professionals. Now, I'm not saying you have to be a full-time professional sponsorship salesperson, but what I am saying is that you are asking marketers for their marketing budget that could be spent on any form of marketing in the world. You are asking them for their marketing dollars for your sponsorship opportunity. If you don't deliver marketing ROI that beats other forms of marketing, you're not going to get their cash. Having a compelling history, having a compelling reason to get their money, making it look like an investment that the brand should get on board with is a surefire way to be dismissed by the sponsor. Sponsors are marketers looking to invest marketing dollars to achieve marketing outcomes. If you ask for or even hint at anything else, social dismissal occurs and you are deemed an amateur. And sponsors do not want to work with amateurs. So don't use an approach that gets you categorized as an amateur, no matter how easy it is for you to simply email sponsorship packages. You want to avoid this approach at all costs. And instead, you want to focus on sitting down with your potential sponsors and doing something called discovery, where you are learning all about them and their goals and not pitching and selling yours. So you want to think about discovery, the discovery meeting, as following a flow. And at the very top of the discovery meeting is not a pitch. You are not trying to pitch. What are you trying to do? Well, I'm going to share that with you. Step one, you really want to focus on building rapport. You want to connect with the sponsor as an equal. You want to engage them in conversation as an equal. Then you want to get to know their audience. So you want to be asking them all kinds of questions about who their audience is. Now, I know what you're thinking. How do I know what questions to ask? Well, it's a good thing you've downloaded the workbook because they're all in there. So you're going to ask all kinds of questions about who their audience is, and you're going to ask them about their marketing goals. In addition to their marketing goals, you want to get to know their roadblocks. What's stopping them from achieving those marketing goals? And then once you've done that, you can diagnose. You can tell them your problem is X. And only then can you prescribe a solution, which is your sponsorship opportunity. In that meeting, when you suggest to the potential sponsor that you could work together and brainstorm some ideas on how to solve those problems, they're going to ask you for a proposal. And you're going to say, sure, but you're not going to send it. Instead, you're going to say, sure, let me put something together. And just so I know, what budget range should I stay within? And then they're going to tell you the amount of the proposal. Once they do, you're simply going to ask, great, what day next week would you like to meet to go over the proposal again? It's very tempting to put on your happy ears and assume that when they say, send me a proposal, they mean they're interested in sponsoring you. Do not do this. You want to book a meeting from a meeting. Remember the acronym BAMFAM. Just send me a proposal. Absolutely. Tell me the budget. Great. I'll put something together. When do you want to have a follow-up meeting to go over it? Book a meeting from a meeting. Do not leave the meeting without a meeting booked. And so now you know what goes at the top of the staircase. I ran out of room. It's BAM FAM. That's what you're trying to achieve. Have you ever noticed that brands ask you to submit a proposal? You do, and you never hear from them again? That's because you didn't book a meeting from a meeting. Were they lying to you in the meeting? Maybe. Or maybe they were really interested, but because they didn't have a deadline to guide their decision making, they just forgot, and then they cooled off, and then they moved on to another opportunity who did book a meeting from a meeting. So in your workbook, you're going to find the 37 discovery questions that we recommend for the stages of discovery, along with some instructions on how to get ready for your discovery meeting. I'm definitely not going to read each of these questions for you, but just so you can see, they are categorized by audience, business goals, success measures, and ROI, and a bunch of other areas that you want to focus on when you're doing discovery. I absolutely love this testimonial. Big win Monday. So a contact, sponsor, prospect for years who has always said a very hard no, we reached back out after going through the sponsorship accelerator. After using the exact discovery call principles over 4 weeks, in other words, the 37 questions that I just shared with you, we have a verbal commitment and are going to contract for a 6-figure deal. ignored for years, switches to an audience-centric outreach approach, books the meeting, does discovery, six-figure deal. Amazing. Years of effort on the wrong things solved in 4 weeks with the right things. Remember, we want to book meetings and book a meeting from a meeting. Win, closed a deal for our premier package. After 3 discovery calls, I was able to send and show our value using the valuation calculator, walk through the contract on the phone, book a meeting from a meeting just now, and he signed and sent payment while we were talking. Today, money was deposited. Monday, we do our onboarding call. Amazing. And I have to read you CJ's story. It's amazing. I decided to ask my board to fund the Sponsorship Collective Accelerator program after binge watching Chris Bayless's very helpful video tips. I didn't know what to expect, but I was not disappointed. I raised more sponsorship money in our first few months of the program than our organization has ever raised, including a $30,000 multi-year partnership that I secured in our first 3 days of the program. Remember, when you do the right things in the right order, in the right amounts, it works. The accelerator is composed of fascinating videos that break down Chris's advice and tools into simple, achievable steps. The calculator alone is worth the cost of the entire program. There's no magic bullet. There are only the right things in the right order, in the right amounts, at the right time. Regular, simple things done consistently leads to incredible results. And then our good friend Chris Norwood, brand new to sponsorships several years ago, worked with us and was able to 5x his sponsorship revenue. In other words, the system works. What I've taught you here today, what I've shared with you here today works. So be warned. You are going to hear back from sponsors. They're going to want to meet with you. They're going to ask to see a proposal. You're going to have to do discovery with them, and you're going to have to book a meeting from a meeting. And most of all, you're going to have to know your audience. If you do this, it will produce results that will shock you. So that's how you build a sponsorship program the right way, by getting leads every day, meetings every week, and sponsors every month. Now, if you want to jump on a call with my team and talk all about your sponsorship opportunity, look a little bit deeper to determine what's holding you back and a path forward, and maybe a way for us to help you get to where you want to go a little bit faster, then click the link on this page and book your call. And remember, the sponsorship proposal does not make the sale. You do. Good luck out there.